Today's story comes from Christopher in upstate New York. He is a hospice doctor who has witnessed patients at the end of their lives and has found that there are many things that people see in vivid dreams and signs of what is to come after this life. Him and his team have done research on the patterns in the days leading up to when a patient dies. Here is his story. Most of what we understand about dying comes from the outside looking in. We see the frailty, the suffering, the profound grief of loss, but what if there is something more, something hidden within the experience itself? A light that only those at the threshold can truly see? Dr. Christopher, a hospice physician in Buffalo, New York, has spent his life at the bedside of the dying, listening to their final words, witnessing their last moments. Through his work, he has come to understand a truth that defies conventional thinking. Those facing death often describe it not with fear, but with peace, love, and even grace. In their words, he has found something life-affirming, something that reminds us all of the deeper meaning and connection woven into our existence. But Christopher's journey with death began long before medicine. It began on August 6, 1974, when he was just 12 years old. Standing at his father's bedside, he watched as the man who had once been so strong reached out, touching the buttons on his shirt. He recalls the last words he heard from his father. "We have to hurry. We need to catch a plane. We're going up north to fish, just like before." And then, he was gone. That moment, that mystery, has followed Christopher ever since. As a doctor, he was trained to fight death, to push it away, but life had other plans. Now he steps beyond the role of observer, listening to those at the edge of life and death. And in their words, in their experiences, he has found something extraordinary, a new way of seeing life itself. Perhaps if we listen closely, we can too. That was the last time Christopher saw his father, but that moment, the words, the touch, the mystery of what his father saw in those final breaths, never left him. It followed him, quietly shaping the course of his life in ways he never could have anticipated. He never set out to explore the topic of dying. If anything, he tried to avoid it. And yet, it seemed to find him, weaving its way through both his personal life and his professional journey. Like his father, Christopher became a doctor. And oddly enough, for someone uneasy with death, medical school provided a kind of refuge. There, dying was barely spoken of. The experience of it? Almost never. Medicine was about fighting death, pushing against the inevitable with every tool, every procedure, every last effort. If you couldn't stop it, you learned to turn away from it, to deny it, at least in part. For years, this mindset worked. In the urgency of the emergency room, where life and death were separated by mere seconds, his job was clear: save lives, pull people back from the edge, keep moving forward. There was no room, perhaps even no need, to ask what came next. But life has a way of bringing us back to the lessons we try hardest to forget. And for Christopher, that reckoning came in 1999. Through a series of unexpected events, he found himself in a place he had never imagined working: hospice. Here the mission was different. The curative science that had once been his armor had run its course. There were no more treatments to give, no more battles to fight. Instead, there was only presence. And in that presence, Christopher was confronted with what he had tried so hard to bury since childhood. At the bedside of the dying, he saw something eerily familiar: patients reaching out, calling for mothers, fathers, and children who had long since passed. They spoke as if they were not alone, as if they were being welcomed, guided. But the most remarkable thing? They looked at peace. It was a peace that defied logic, a peace that could not be explained by medicine alone. And it was in those moments, sitting with the dying, listening, bearing witness, that Christopher began to see death in an entirely new way. Not as an end to be feared, but as a transition filled with meaning, connection, and even grace. In April of 1999, Christopher sat at the bedside of a patient he had grown particularly fond of, Mary. She was nearing the end of her life, surrounded by her 4 children who kept vigil by her side. And then, something unexpected happened. Mary began cradling a baby that no one else could see. She spoke softly to him, calling him Danny. Her children exchanged puzzled glances. There was no Danny, at least not one they knew of. The next day, Mary's sister arrived from out of town. When she heard what had happened, she revealed a long-buried truth. Danny was real. He had been Mary's first child, stillborn. The loss had been so profound that Mary had never spoken of him, not once. Yet in her final days, the unspeakable sorrow of a lifetime returned to her not as pain, but as warmth, as love, as healing. Christopher had spent years treating physical wounds that could not be cured, but in that moment, he witnessed something far greater, spiritual wounds being mended in ways medicine could not explain. A few weeks later, he met Tom, a young man whose body was failing, but whose will still seemed strong. After examining him, Christopher walked out to the nurse's station and confidently stated, "I think Tom has more time. If we start IV antibiotics and fluids, we can stabilize him." Without even looking up, a seasoned nurse named Nancy replied, "Nope, he's dying." Christopher was taken aback. Why? Because he's seeing his mother. He scoffed. "I don't remember that class from medical school." Nancy finally looked at him and smiled. "Son, you missed a lot of classes." Tom passed away soon after, and Christopher realized that Nancy knew something he did not, that these end-of-life experiences weren't random, weren't hallucinations. They had meaning. They mattered, not just to the dying, but to those entrusted with their care. And so, he did what any doctor must do to be of true service. He sought to understand. What he discovered was profound. End-of-life experiences, visions, pre-death dreams, encounters with loved ones long gone, have been reported for centuries across cultures and religions. They are written about in the Bible, described in Plato's Republic, and immortalized in Shakespeare's plays. They are as old as humanity itself. Yet while poets, playwrights, and philosophers have explored these mysteries with depth and reverence, medicine has remained silent. The field that dedicates itself to life has had almost nothing to say about the process of dying, about something so deeply meaningful and perhaps even therapeutic. Why? One reason end-of-life experiences are so often overlooked is that they can be mistaken for confusion. It's true. Many dying patients experience delirium as their bodies shut down. Their thoughts become fragmented, their awareness fades, and often they are left in a state of anxiety and agitation. But end-of-life dreams and visions are something entirely different. Unlike confusion, these experiences are vivid, coherent, and deeply personal. The dying are not lost in a haze of disorientation. They are present, engaged in something profound, something that reaches beyond the limits of the physical world. And perhaps the best way to understand this distinction is to listen. Christopher had a patient, Jean, who was nearing the end of her life, and shared an extraordinary experience, one that stayed with her until her passing. She shared, "I was lying in bed, and people were walking, very slowly by me. The ones on the right, I didn't know them, but they were friendly. They would touch my arm or my hand as they passed. But the ones on the left, I knew them. My mom and dad were there, my uncle, everyone I had lost. They passed by, touching my arm, just like the others. I thought it was just a dream, but I saw them so clearly, every detail of their faces. I know it was them, my mother, my father, my brother-in-law. And I've seen my mother more recently." Jean was not confused. She was not hallucinating, and to dismiss her experience as such would be to strip away its meaning, to dehumanize the depth of what she was sharing. Instead, she reveals something far more extraordinary, a paradox of dying itself. Her body was declining, yet emotionally and spiritually, she was alive, more alive than ever. She was aware, present, and engaged in an experience that brought her comfort and peace. End-of-life experiences are not random. They are tied to the deepest parts of who we are, to our longing to love and be loved, to heal and be healed, to find connection, closure, and understanding before we let go. They also hint at something even greater, a bridge between body and soul, between the reality we know and the one we have yet to understand, between the past and the present, the living and the dead. Most importantly, these experiences remind us of a profound continuity. A mother like Mary can hold the child she lost decades ago. A daughter like Jean can be embraced by the mother she once struggled to understand. And in those moments, something remarkable happens. The boundaries between life and death blur, not as an end, but as a reunion, a homecoming, a love that endures beyond time itself. The question lingers, why do the final words of the dying not hold greater weight? In a world where proof and data shape belief, the intangible is often dismissed. End-of-life experiences, once anecdotal, are now being examined with scientific rigor. Researchers set out to listen, to truly understand. With over 1,400 interviews conducted, a profound pattern emerged. In an initial study, 66 patients were interviewed daily until their passing, revealing that over 80% experienced vivid pre-death dreams, distinct from ordinary dreams. What did they dream about? Most, 72%, saw deceased loved ones, while 59% dreamed of travel. Others revisited past experiences or encountered the living. Importantly, dreams of the deceased provided the greatest comfort, with frequency increasing as death approached. Beyond data, these dreams carried deep meaning. The most powerful theme was a reassuring presence, deceased loved ones appearing not to haunt, but to console. They offered messages of love, forgiveness, and guidance. Maggie, in her 80s, found peace when a childhood friend returned in a dream to apologize. "Sorry, you're a good person. If you need help, just call my name." Kenny, 88, was reunited with his late mother, hearing her whisper, "I love you." Sandy's late sister Emily reminded her, "Remember what I taught you." Many patients simply felt the presence of others, silent but understanding. For Paul, facing terminal illness, his late wife appeared in dreams, always in light blue, smiling, waving, wordlessly assuring him that she was fine. Nearly 60% of patients dreamed of traveling, of preparing for a journey. Jimmy, another patient, sensed the transition. "I haven't seen some of these people in years. I know we're going somewhere, but I don't know where." Sarah saw 6 deceased family members waiting for her. "It's good to see them," she said. Not all dreams were peaceful. Some patients, particularly those with unresolved trauma, relived past wars or hardships. Paul, a veteran, experienced this as well. Even these distressing dreams seemed to serve a purpose, offering a final chance to process, reflect, and find closure. One such story was Max. In 2011, he entered hospice care, plagued by relentless nightmares from his service in World War II. At just 17, he had stormed the shores of Normandy, serving as a gunner on a landing craft. But his torment came from what followed: the return trips to the USS Texas, ferrying the dead and dying. For decades, he had remained silent, but as death neared, his mind became a battlefield once more. His dreams were vivid, terrifying. "There is nothing but death. Dead soldiers all around me," he described. Unable to sleep, he was overcome by the weight of memories he had buried for 67 years. Then, a transformation occurred. The nightmares began to fade, replaced by 2 types of dreams, one comforting, the other neutral. In the first, he relived the joy of receiving his discharge papers. In the second, a soldier he did not recognize appeared on a beach, telling him, "Soon, your fellow soldiers are going to come and get you." Mac's dreams granted him a peace he had long been denied. In the end, he was not abandoned. He was rescued by those he had tried so hard to save. His journey ended not in turmoil, but in quiet resolution. He closed his eyes, free at last. These experiences teach us not just about dying, but about living. If we listen, we might see that these dreams are more than fleeting visions. They offer connection, reassurance, healing, and love. Perhaps they remind us of something greater, that in life's final moments, we are not alone, and maybe, just maybe, there is nothing to fear. Thank you for watching. If you're intrigued by the mysteries of the mind, subscribe for more deep dives into the unknown, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. Until next time, keep questioning the world around you.